In this episode, we have Patrick Namulisa as our guest. He's an incoming PhD student at Columbia University in the US. In this podcast, we will discuss about an application process for master and PhD degree. Specifically, we will in detail describe how to find the right program, when and how to start your application, what is an IMSOGLO, about writing motivation letters, preparing your CV, and what might get wrong with reference letters, and finding the right supervisor. I hope you will find this episode helpful. So let's start. Thank you so much for being here, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Really exciting to be here.
Yes. Could you introduce yourself for our listeners?
So my name is Patrick Cito Namulisa. I come from the Congo DRC in the small city, but well, it's not that small because we have 1 million people living there, Bukavu, where I grew up and I was raised there. I did my bachelor in environmental science and technology from the University of Burundi. And after this, I went back home, was working as an entrepreneur for 3 years, working in environmental consulting and construction. And after this, I wanted to combine some of my interests together for terrestrial ecosystem, soil science, and global patterns. And this is why I applied to my current master program, the International Master in Soil and Global Change. And this is what I'm doing right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing the last semester now for the masters, and yeah, that's the brief I can say about me for now.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you mentioned IMSOGLO. What is IMSOGLO?
So IMSOGLO is an international master program that's combined 4 universities together. They created this program where you are studying the interactions basically between soils and the global change drivers. So, there is climate change, land use change, and all the stuff going on. And this has some implication on soils and the processes in the soils, be it on biochemistry, but also the land use possibilities and soil degradation. So IMSOGLO is a program where you study the interactions, how soils contribute to climate change and global change, and how climate change and global change as a whole is also disturbing and changing the patterns in soils. So this is the program, and it's combined Ghent University in Belgium, Boku Vienna here in Austria, and the University of Göttingen in Germany, and the University Aarhus University in Denmark. Yeah.
Yes, I couldn't describe more than that. It was excellent description. Thank you. And could you maybe share with your own experience on IMSOGLO? How did you find out about the program and many more?
Yeah, this is exciting. I mean, I was looking for a program where I could combine some of my interests together and kind of find the intersection between these programs. And this is where, looking for the programs, I discovered about IMSOGLO. At that time, IMSOGLO was a new program because it just started 1 year before the time when I applied. So it was not easy to find it. Not many people could recommend it, but while looking through different Erasmus funded program, I saw this and I was like, this is the program I'm looking for. And I applied and I was lucky to be one of the selected students. And it has been incredible despite the fact that we studied through in the pandemic with Corona and how it changed everything in education globally, not only for IMSOGLO, but it has been an exciting venture so far, be it in Belgium or in Vienna or in Germany or even the summer school in Denmark. It was great and great colleagues from everywhere in the world, and you will learn so much from the different culture. One of the things I like the most about it is the food from everywhere I eat, and this is so exciting, right? Yeah.
Yes, about the food, it was the important part. Well, I was just wondering, maybe it would be useful also for students who want to apply for IMSOGLO. Could you maybe share about briefly the application process?
Yeah, well, the IMSOGLO is one of those great programs, but that are quite easy and simple to apply for. The first thing is you have really to identify it as something that is interesting for you. not just as a second option or not really the option for you. And the second thing would be to fit in your background. It's a very demanding program. If it's in Ghent or in Boku or in Göttingen or even in Denmark, it's very demanding, and you have to make sure that your background is strong with calculus and statistics, but more in soil-related stuff like soil science, soil physics, soil chemistry. And if you have these basics, I mean, it can be a great program because you will have to expand on the basics you get from your background to learn more about the processes globally on terrestrial ecosystems.
Okay, so the most important part is you should be interested in the program. Yeah.
I mean, if you are interested, it makes it easy to write your motivation letter, because this is one of the 4 big components of your application, your motivation letter. And then in your motivation letter, you basically write about yourself, your background, and your interests, why this program will help you achieve and what. And
I'm just going to stop you right here, because about motivation letter, we will talk later. But
great.
Thank you. Yes. So you became a successful applicant. Congratulations in your application at Columbia University in New York in US. So Columbia is one of the 6th best universities in the world. So according to US News Global University Ranking. So for future students who want to be a successful applicant like you, what key steps you can point out and how they should start and where?
I mean, it's all connected to what you want to do next. Maybe the first thing is, and this is what is not really easy at some time, to just know what you want to do. For me, it was clear that I want to do a PhD after. So even when I joined the program, I knew that this program is a step through where I'm going. And even in my motivation letter, actually, I said that I will do a PhD later. So while doing this program, I could already identify some of my interests, what is spiking me and what I would like the most about the program. And this would define how I want to approach this second step of looking for a PhD program. And well, it was interesting. I know we have so many PhD opportunities in Europe and everywhere, but for me, it was clear that I wanted to combine different experiences. So I wanted to do my PhD in the US, and this is for personal reasons. So for future students that are interested to do their PhD in the US, well, it's quite more demanding in the US than here, because most of the time for PhD in Europe, you apply for a project that is already clear. They are looking for someone. It's like job application. You apply and it's quite easy. But on the other hand, in the US, most of the time you apply for a program. So it's a PhD program where you have to fit in the program. You have to have a solid background, and you don't need to know exactly what you want to do, have a project in mind, but you want to know the direction and the kind of research you want to do, because the key thing about applying for PhD is to identify a mentor, an advisor that is willing to accept you in their group so that you can do your PhD with them. And this person is the one that you'll reach out to them through emails. They call them cold email, where you just send an email to a random person and you read their papers, you see they're interesting and everything, and you contact them asking about possibilities of working with them. Most of people fail at this stage because, well, you send hundreds of emails to people that don't know you. They are busy. These professors are busy. They have so much to do. And most of the time they won't reply you. So, I mean, the first, maybe one of the key things to learn is how to shape your email and what to send in the email, so that you can make sure that if they read the email, they will be just willing to let you know if they're fine to meet you. And at this stage, the email is simple, is quite introducing yourself very briefly, not a big email, because I said again, they are busy. If it's big, they won't read everything. They will just skip it. But if it's small, simple, and very concise, they will read it. So just introduce yourself, speak about your interests. If you are doing something related to what they are doing, speak about it, and ask about if they are willing to take as PhD student for next year, because in the US you start the application process 1 year before when you want to start.
Here, I just want to specify, when you say short email, like not long, how much sentence you mean? Because some people want to know this.
Sure. I mean,
or sections.
Yeah, most of the time my emails have maybe 2 or 3 sections. And the first one is just the first one is the salutation, and this should be really correct. You have to put their name there, their full name, or at least their last name. You cannot say hi and they don't know you, and you don't know how they react to these things. So you read them orally, dear professor, and you put their last name or their full name, and there is salutation stuff. And then second thing is to introduce yourself. This is one of the sessions, and my example will be just, I am Patrick Cito Namulisa from the Congo and currently doing this master's program, and which is a joint program between this university, and this university. And I am working on these projects. I'll put 1 or 2 sentences describing the project I'm doing. And somehow this is to connect, because the project I'm doing is somehow something they understand because it's related to what they are doing. And this is how I connect. The second thing would be, well, I've been seeing your papers or your work on this and this and this. I am really interested, since this match my interest on this and this and this.
Here, precisely, because when you read their papers and also when you want to get in touch and give the feeling that you are interested in their research, I think it's quite hard to summarize, like, how much sentence you usually put in there.
Most of the time it's only 2 sentences. As again I said, it should be very small. The thing is, you don't want to tell them their paper. They know them. So you want to say keywords. Let's say I'm interested in carbon cycle in peatlands. It's not the same with soil carbon of peatland is not the same as global carbon cycle, or it's not the same in agroecosystems. And so if they are working on peatland and carbon cycle, you want to say, your work on carbon cycles in peatlands is really interesting to me, and this is what I want to do. So I wanted to know if you are looking for PhD student. It's also help if you have some connections together. Let's say you discuss with their student before and they're like, yeah, you should reach out to them. You can mention them. I was discussing with this person, or I discussed with some people and they recommended to reach out to you. And so it's always all right. And well, if the email is good, most of the time they are also looking for students to run their projects, so they will reach back. And but the big things about this is not only the email; it's the CV you attach. You always has to attach your CV.
That was my next question. Yes, Could you describe what you should put in, what you shouldn't be putting in your CV, and how precise to be?
So most of the time, the first thing to do is always avoid long stuff. If you are at a career stage where you are looking for a PhD right after your bachelor or master's, most of the time you don't have that much experience. You don't have so much to add. So don't complicate your CV. Have it simple. 2-page are maximum. Most of people don't read after 2 pages. So what I put is just always starts with education. So the first thing is I'll put education, and here I'll put my master program. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you have to know is that programs may have the same name, but not have the same contents. Let's say I have a bachelor in environmental science. This doesn't tell anything about what is the content of the program, because some places environmental science would be related to atmospheric science and what is going on. Some other places more climate change, some other places forestry, and some bit of soil science. Mm-hmm. So it's always interesting if you can attach something, selected coursework. And this is something that it should be applied to the person and the program you want to do. And here you can describe, you can just name few courses, maybe 3, 4, 5. that are somehow related to the work he's doing to show that you already have this background in these things. And obviously they will have time to to see your transcripts if you advance in further steps. But at this stage, they just want to see if you can do the work. And this can inform this. After education, always puts your research and work experience. If you have so much research experience and they are not current research experience, let's say what should be, if you put chronologically, you'll have 2 work experience and 1 research experience that is far behind. Most of the time, they will read the 2 work experience that are not research experience, and they will skip. So here, the skill is to separate research experience and work experience so that you can put, even if your research experience was 3 years ago, you can put your research experience. If you are doing a program like ours, you have a master thesis that you can put also as a research experience. And this is something clear that connects the person to the kind of skills you are bringing, because there is a big question is what you are bringing to the table. And what you are bringing to the table is the experiences you bring in the lab, for be it practical skills, modeling or field work, or how you manage stuff. And when they see the projects you've been involved in, they may be interested to discuss with you more. And after this, you can always put other stuff, work experience, maybe selected courses you got, extra academic activities, scholarships you've received, the kind of skills you have, computer skills you may have, and those things, but always have it simple. 2 pages are enough. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here again, if let's say I have many interests or hobbies, should I also put them in my CV?
Well, it brings something to have some hobbies. This says that all your life is not about just doing school on science. And this is great. It puts some balance to your life. But sometimes this is a secondary information, is not the priority for now. Because for now, what you are looking for is to have someone that can see is that you resemble to the kind of student that joined their lab, or at least you bring some of the skills they have when they come. And at this stage, you don't want to complicate yourself. But if you have them, let's say you are interested in science communication and you are involved in science communication, you have to put it there, because this is a skill that is obviously very great for a scientific area. But if you are also interested in some other stuff, you can put them. But again, this is secondary information. So if it is there or it is not there, it doesn't change anything at this stage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So I saw also you had your own website. Does it somehow help? Like, would you suggest students to build their own website and put there all of their information?
Yeah, well, as a junior scientist, just starting my career, and I have to own my voice. This is something that I don't know how to say it again, but the point is, when you put your profile on LinkedIn or on your CV, when you describe yourself, someone looking on your CV can just have a rash idea of who you are, but they cannot feel the connection personally to what you've been doing, since when and stuff.
Exactly. But
your CV gives you space to own your voice, to speak about yourself. So if someone, most of the time, they won't jump to your CV, to your website, if your CV was not that interesting. But if your CV somehow is interesting to them, they're like, who's this person? And they look interesting. When they go through your websites, they see some personal dimension to your story, your background, where you come from, the stuff you've been doing. And this can give you voice to some people. You won't have access to them, but your website will speak, and they get an idea of the strength, the background you bring. And not only, life is not only the professional skills, it's also your background, what you bring and where you've been so far and everything. So these things, you won't put them on your CV.
So it's more about taking advantage and telling more about yourself to people and reaching out to them through your website. And also, I think it also relates to what you said before. Like, if you have some hobbies, and because I know some of the people who are doing their masters, like my group mates, they have tremendous experience in remote sensing, and they have done a lot of work. Myself, like I have done some of the like programming things. I think it's a good opportunity for me to show that I'm more than capable, and also for my friends, they can also put their own interest.
Yeah, definitely. And again, as I say, some of these hobbies, you find ways to connect them to your work. Yes. Let's say you are an artist, but you can find a way to put arts and science together to develop science communication. And these hobbies, they may still be hobbies, but you find a way to connect them to what you are doing. And again, this is a key skill that you want to put on your CV. And your website, maybe you'll show more about your arts. Let's say you are an artist, and on your website, there is pictures of your arts. There are some convention and conferences and exhibition you've been to, and people get to connect more about you. And this is what I mean.
So if you want to tell about yourself more, if you think that you have more than capable, than more skills, and you can tell more about, have interesting hobbies, interests, please have your own website and try to put more information about yourself. It would be interesting and also helpful. Mm-hmm. So once again, can you share with your secrets and again point out by listing things what students should be focusing on doing and what students should be avoiding doing certain things in their applications. So here you can talk about PhD or master's separately as you want.
So, well, let's start with masters. They are more simple. And for a master program like IMSOGLO, most of the time when you come from your bachelor, not all the bachelor program give you the tools to understand everything about your field. So you don't understand much. You have general idea about your field, and you want to go further with your studies because you want a key skill to develop and continue. And one of the big things that's the mistake I see people doing is to not know exactly what they are doing. Let's say you come from forestry background and you're applying for IMSOGLO. When you read your motivation letter, it looks like you are applying for a forestry program, not a soil-related program. Maybe this is because you are more interested in forestry, but for IMSOGLO, they want people that are interested in soils and global change. So again, you have to identify a program that fits your interests and where you feel like you can speak about this, show your passion. One page of motivation letter to show your passion and your interest is really not that much. So you don't have time to wander and to go. You have to go be straight to the points and discuss the key points about this. And this is for the masters. And for PhD, it's more demanding because a master program, you're applying for a program which is like, if you have a good background and you can do this, you can be successful with your exams, it's all right. But PhD is not about school exams and courses. It's more about your skills to become a researcher. They are looking for someone that will be a researcher or that has passion to investigate questions, that is able to find independently their own questions and know how they can go to this. It's not about be alone. It's about seeking help and resources from your mentors, but doing the work alone. So you have to show independence. You have to be able to identify what you want to do next, what kind of research interests you. Let's say you did IMSOGLO. You learn so much in the terrestrial ecosystems, but you cannot do your PhD in everything in terrestrial.
Statistics, GIS.
Yes. And if you're interested in GIS, you want
soil physics.
On soil physics and soil mapping and connect them. This would be interesting. And a PhD in this won't have anything about ecology or stuff. You may have secondary information on this, but you have to focus. And so when you want to apply for a PhD, first thing, identify the kind of topics that interest you.
It's very important.
This is very important first for yourself, because a PhD is a far more demanding than a master program. It's in the work input you have to put and everything you have to do. So if you don't like your topic, it's almost sure that you won't finish this PhD. You'll have to drop out. The PhD you are doing will define your career path. So imagine doing a PhD in something you don't like and be in the obligation to keep working in something you don't like. So first, find what you like to do. You're not in the obligation to do a PhD exactly in something related to IMSOGLO because you did IMSOGLO. No, you can find your interest in something else and have the courage to follow your dream. Because also, except for yourself, when you want to do a PhD, you want to know names of people that are working in your field. And if you are applying in the US and you're interested in the US, you want to reach out to these people in end August, September, or October to discuss possibilities of joining their lab.
That is for US.
That's for the US, because most of the programs have an application period from end September to early December. And end September or let's say early August to early December, this is like 2 months application period. And they release their results around February, March. So if you get an offer, you can accept the offer basically by 15th of April. But the idea is...
Yes, I think we will talk about it later. But yes, for our listeners, I just want to summarize. First, for masters, be precise, be interested. But I also want to add here to what Patrick said. If you are even indecisive, like in my case, I couldn't decide what I wanted to do further because I had many interests, and I did this master, which I don't regret because now I know what exactly I want to do. So even if you are undecisive and you don't know what you are going to do further, but this IMSOGLO master aligns very much with your bachelor, please do it. You won't regret it. And also, yes, try to be involved more in activities and try to really study, because the courses are very advanced and they are very helpful in your life. Yes.
Yeah, sure. If it's the same for me, when I saw IMSOGLO, I saw that this program is really great for me, but I didn't know what exactly was in this program. It's once I was here that I could start studying, and I was like, oh my God, This is really cool. I like this and I like this. What I wanted to do a PhD, I thought I wanted to do a PhD even before I did the master's. And what I thought I wanted to do for my PhD, now it has changed because of IMSOGLO, because of what I learned, I didn't know. And when you develop new interests, new passions, this can define your interests, and you're like, this is what I want to do. But again, if you feel like you are looking for a program next and you feel like IMSOGLO is something you can do, as you said, I think that if you're interested in soils and what is going on now with climate change, you won't regret to study IMSOGLO. Yes, it's a great program, definitely.
It's a great program. Just do it. And also, it would be more than you expected, and courses are very nice. Again, about PhD, you should be very precise. It's not like a master. You are going to spend your 3, 4, even 5 years of your life doing the thing. If you don't like your PhD topic, you would hate it. And just imagine that you are wasting your 5 years or 4 years. Does it worth it? So you should be very careful. Okay, so now we are going step by step. We are now about to talk motivation letter. I'm actually honored to have you today as my guest, Patrick, because you also helped me with my motivation letter. You gave, feedback. And if you are someone who is going to apply for university, getting a feedback on your motivation letter is very essential, because one of the most important parts of your application is your motivation letter, whether for bachelor, master, or PhD. From my experience, Patrick is the best person I can ask for feedback. So I would like to use this opportunity actually and ask you more about the process of writing a motivation letter and how do you write motivation letter, and do you have a general structure which you apply to all writing process, or how does it go?
Well, first, I feel honored to to hear your word, and well, I'm not that exceptional, and it's just that
I'm not that exceptional. I'm just going to do my PhD in 6 best universities in the world.
No, okay. Well, to be honest about the motivation, it's just more about the willing to help and see friends doing great. And I get the same. I get feedback from other people because, well, as you said, motivation letter is kind of very demanding in a process where you're writing, and you can be overwhelmed with your own ideas because, they are in your head and you think that your paper is just self-explaining your ideas as they are amazing in your head. And until someone else look at it, you may not be able to identify mistakes and how your letter is not self-explaining. Yeah. So when you give someone to review, they can have this feeling like, I feel a background of biochemistry here. But you say you are applying for a program that is more bioscience or bioscience. Why you don't go more into bioscience, not biochemistry, for example? And this is something that's happened, and you have to make sure that you follow this. But for me, I don't think that there is only good models of motivation letters. But obviously there are bad models of motivation letters. But there are many ways you can write your motivation letter. But the first thing is to approach it as a flow. They give you the mic, speak about yourself. You say you want this job, you want this position, you want the PhD, you want the master's. Now, why? This is the only place they allow you to speak about yourself to convince them that you're the right person. And most of the time when you're applying, you feel impressed by your background. I finished my bachelor degree, for example, with distinctions, with first class, or with this kind of amazing stuff.
Yeah, here I will also add why and why you.
Yeah. Obviously, it's obviously that way. Why should we take you? Because you're not applying. It's not only you. For a program like IMSOGLO, they receive more than 400 applicants each year for only about 25 positions. And why should they take you out of 500? Why you? You may be impressed about your background, but you don't know the other people that apply. They may have also outstanding.
IMSOGLO, again, I would mention international program. It's very international. We have students from Brazil, Argentina, Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have people from everywhere in the world applying for a program, and from where you are, you may think you are the best, but why should they trust you? So your motivation letter is a place where you discuss why I am the right person for this position. And they don't know you. They don't have another way to assess except reading your words. So how you will read your words, the flow of your words, the sections, the paragraph of your motivation letter, they will really mean a lot. Again, it's few people reviewing the letters, reading 500, 600 or more motivation letters. If I read the first paragraph or the first section, this is maybe 2-3 first paragraph, and it is not interesting, why should I finish 2 pages where I still have 300 more to read? It means that when you are addressing your motivation letters, it matters how you start.
Here, could you maybe stop on the sections? Okay, this is introduction, this many sentence I would put in here, and about also more details like how to structure and how to be precise. Yeah. Maybe you could also give some advice for our listeners.
Yeah, so when I'm writing my own motivation letters, I use a funnel model. I'll discuss the broad problem. I always start with a problem. And this is me. And as I said again, there is not only one good way to write a motivation letter. But me, I'll always start with the problem.
Again, here. So the broad problem, issue about your country or international.
Let's say you want to do a PhD in something related to climate change or carbon sequestration, or a master's in soils and global change. It's obviously something that's make only sense because of climate change today. So how I'll address this? I'll address the global problem of climate change. I'll start with climate change, anthropogenic activities, and how they have been keys in global concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere, and how things have changed.
So this is first section.
This is my first line, actually. I'm starting with, let's say I'm starting with anthropogenic activities, namely fossil fuel and
so
land use
let's say
change.
I'm the person who's reading your motivation letter, and when I open your letter, the first sentence or the first section would be general.
Well, yeah, you have introductions, you have your names.
More precisely about
when you start reading the key message of my motivation letters, you always start with a problem. That's how I will write my motivation letters. I will show that I have a broad understanding of the topic, why it matters to study this. And showing this, I start with the broad problem and I narrow it to the exact problem that your position or the master's or the PhD will be addressing, or the kind of interest I have. If you are interested in climate change and land use change, you cannot study everything about climate change and land use change. You may have to narrow on something specific. And this is where I come from, the big problems, to narrow it to something specific. Let's say carbon sequestration, soil carbon sequestration and soil carbon and global change. I'll narrow the problem and give it to these points. Then I'll discuss, it's still my first, I will discuss now this problem to show again understanding of the problem. And this is key when you're applying for a PhD position. They want to know that they won't babysit you. They want to know that you can find information by yourself and that you already have an idea of why the projects and what the work they are doing matters. And this is where you put this. After this, you don't want also to put so much or a big section that will be, people can be like drunk without knowing who is the person. Impress people by your knowledge, showing that you understand what is going on.
Precise with your sentence.
Yes. Second section is about me. So I will address my motivation letter like this. What's the problem? Second, this person that knows all this about this, who is this person? Second section is who is the person? I will say me, my background, and this is cool. So go directly. Don't speak about where you grew up and everything. You say where you come from. If where you grew up define your path, it's all right to discuss this because you want to show that, well, I get interested about this topic because of this event. But don't go deep in this because...
Yes. I think here also what you said on CV, you have many information about yourself, which you want to tell, but which applies the most, put them.
I come from the Congo, and for me, I become interested in natural resource management with my experience. When I left home to go to Burundi, I went to study civil engineering. When I arrived in Burundi, it was the first time of my life in the campus to have electricity for 24 hours non-stop. This was the first time in my life. I grew up, we have We produce electricity and we sell it to Rwanda and Burundi and stuff, but we don't have it for ourselves. We have electricity 4 hours per day, 6 hours per day, 2 hours or days without having it. So this was the first time, and I was impressed. How can I be in a smaller country than my own, but they have this? From this experience, I understood that we have a problem of resource management. We have so much water resources to produce renewable energy in my country. If it's a solar electricity, like solar power or hydroelectricity, we have this potential, but we don't transform the potential into something key resource we can use. From this, I changed my interest in civil engineering to be like, I want to understand natural resource management. So when I went to do environmental science and technology, the only thing I was looking for was natural resource management. But once I'm in the program, I learned much more than my initial interest. I discovered many things.
But you already knew.
But then, when I'm writing my motivation letter, I say I come from the Congo. I was always frustrated by the mismanagement of natural resources in my country, and this motivated my decision to study environmental science and technology at the University of Burundi, which I completed in 2017 with a national distinction, where I describe what I did, but why, what motivated my decision. You can add something if you did something research related to the projects in this, you can say about this. Because also it's not only school I bring to the table, I bring also my background as a manager, as an entrepreneur. I discuss the work. I went back home, I started a company with a few of my friends, and we did this and this and this, and I discuss what is key there. One of the key things about me is something that I discovered throughout this experience is my capability to deliver results in very challenging situations where you combine hope, you combine different aspects of your personality to be able to deliver results whatsoever the situation, because it was not easy to be an entrepreneur in Congo. Is something really challenging, you know. And when you are reading my motivation letter, you understand something about my background as a person, but also my background, professional background, academic background, and professional background. So after the who, I may go deeper into why this question. I showed before that I'm interested in this question is about this and this and this. I now go deeper to show why this question, and while showing why this question, I go into what I did to prepare myself. I did IMSOGLO. I'll describe something about my experience with IMSOGLO, with my current projects. And then after this, I discuss why the intersection, why Colombia is the place for me, why I think they have what I need. I'll discuss this to finish my letter. So if I can just summarize, the first thing was what's the big topic? The second thing is, who is this person that has this understanding? It was about me, my background, professional, academic background. And the third session was about this, like my knowledge about the topic, what I want to do in PhD, or if I know already the project, discuss more about the project and how I came up interested in this particular thing. As again, I said, I came from natural resource management. Electricity was the thing that sparked my interest, but now I have nothing to do with electricity. So how did I go from this to soil carbon, so nitrogen, global change? I discussed this. I say this is in the said my third session is the place for this. Discussing how discovering the problems in Africa, where I come from, how even when you put fertilizer, you don't have the same results like you may do here in Europe, because soils, they are depleted of carbon. So there is less life in the soils, and even the limited inputs of fertilizer, they are less efficient. I discuss this and I show my understanding and how this has shaped my interest. I will discuss how I've prepared myself with a program like IMSOGLO, my research experience, what I'm doing, the key skills I'm gaining from this research. And after this, I'll say, well, and my goal are to become this. So why I think you are the right place? After discussing my goals, they have to make sure. So if you know this, you came from this background, you are interested in this topic, you have a goal to continue as a researcher or go in industry or do this. Why you apply here? Why us? Why do you think that we can help you achieve this? And the organization want to know that you understand the resources they avail for you as a master student or a PhD student. If you're coming to do IMSOGLO, you have the opportunity to connect with students and researchers from 4 universities. And these are some of the best in the world in their field. They want to know that you acknowledge that they are doing amazing work and you may potentially work with them. They want to make sure that they bring in people that already are informed, won't be surprised to realize that one of the key name in the field is teaching you. You won't be surprised because you already knew this, because you are informed about the program. The same for PhD. They want to know why you decided to come here, and the decision can be based on the PI, the person you want to work with. But again, in the US, you don't belong to your PI, your professor. You belong to the university and the system, the department. So they want to see that you understand that they have resources, they have the equipment, they have people, they have resources in every way to help you achieve your goal. And this is also a way to speak to them, to speak about, are you the right person for me? Because again, next step would be maybe interview for PhD.
Yes, we will talk about it later. But I just want to summarize again. First, for your motivation letter. But before making the summarizing, I just want to ask, do you use the same, would you say that it's the same for PhD and master?
Well, for PhD is more strategic, is more about knowing. For masters, it's more about the curiosity, the desire to learn more, the interest. I'm wondering how this will work. I'm really curious about this. For PhD, the curiosity is great, always in research. As a researcher, you need curiosity, but they want to know if you are the right person, you have the skills. Here, what you don't know for a master degree, you learn it. There are coursework here to help you learn. But for PhD, you learn stuff, but they want to know that you have the basis from which they will learn. They will develop this. So when you're writing your motivation, and most of the time for masters is just 1 page. So here you just discuss the small about the problem, about you, your background, your interests in this topic, and what you want to achieve next, and why them. And you are done for our masters. But for PhD, you want to discuss more about something specific, because they won't give you money. They won't fund you for 3, 4, 5 years to just wander looking for, you don't know what you want to do. And after 1 year, you are like, well, I couldn't find what I want to do, so I'll stop here. No. They want to make sure that you come with, in the US, you don't need to have a project already written down, but they want to say, this person is interested in soil, carbon, and nitrogen and global change interactions. And they already know that this professor and this professor are the right person for this. They've talked to them. So we see already that they have done their homework. The professor said, yes, you're right. This is what I'm working on. We discussed. You see that I'm good, I'm interested, because this professor will be in the committee, most obviously. And they will read their name in your application, because they always ask you who you want to work with. If you say you want to work on soil carbon, but you put a zoologist on your list, they'll be like, you don't know.
Big mistake.
Yeah. If you want to work on soil carbon, but you put someone that's work on soil phosphorus, they'll be like, well. It's true that I understand soil carbon. My work, some touch soil carbon, but my thing is soil phosphorus. So they will allow in people that understand already what the PI is doing. This is why you write the first email to discuss with them. If you have the chance to meet them, you chat with them about potential work they are doing in their lab and how you can collaborate with them. Some professors will tell you, well, we have 3 projects here that are funded. Find one of these that is interesting for you and do your work in this. Some others will be, you have time. In 1 year, we'll decide together a project. You're not in the obligation to work exactly on what I'm working in. You can work on your own stuff.
Yeah, it's for the preparation.
Yes.
For the motivation letter, it will help. Do your homework. Know about the university applying. Know about the professors you are going to work with. Again, I will summarize for master students, 1 page. Please be aware of the program. What is the program? And also try to tell about your background, explain why you are interested in the program. But for PhD, it would be more complex. But how many pages would be okay for PhD motivation letter?
Most of the time, PhD, they go to 2 pages. And well, you cannot go beyond 2 pages. Again, the key things is always to realize that you have to respect people's time. You cannot send a book to someone or a paper article to read. You have to summarize the information. And as a scientist, this is also a key skill to show when you are able to summarize briefly key information and share them. This is also show that you are in your preparation as a scientist and a researcher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for PhD, do your homework, know about professor. If you can, get in touch with them, try to talk with them. And if you have questions before your applications you want to know, please reach out to them. Also, be aware that you are going to be more independent in PhD, and I think that's the difference with master and PhD. In master, you have subjects and you just study and you do your homework and you pass the exams. But in PhD, there is no exams. Of course, you will be having some course, but still, you would be more independent and.
Yeah, again, so the thing is, like, for masters, you are preparing, you are gaining skills. They teach you this and they ask you this on the exam. You get 1 or you get best score or you fail your exam, but you know you failed and you can know you failed. For PhD is research, is about metrics, is about hypothesis, is about methods, how you follow them, is about deliver results in this timing, is about preparing papers, publish papers, is about going to conferences. Share your funding so far. It's about the interactions and the inputs you are doing in the work. But I would like to highlight something in the application for PhD, and which is essential, not only important, is essential, but most people they will neglect it, is the PI. For the 5 years, your professors, your boss, your advisor, they call them your boss, is your boss. He will decide of your life for 5 years. And after these 5 years, at least for the next 5 years, he will be the one that will decide most of your career. Actually, it's crazy, but it's true. Why I say this? There are people that are toxic. There are people that are all right, but their personality cannot fit you with your personality. So
not always, but most of the time.
Yeah. So it's not always about who is a great scientist. It's not always about going to one of the top universities. It's first going to the right person for you. The right person is a person that is willing to mentor you, to help you achieve your goal. You want to be a professor when you finish? You need someone that will teach you how to be a professor. And this is not always the formalized information they're giving you that are in a book, how to become a professor, and they are telling you first thing, do this, second, no. Most of this is really an informal stuff. These are things that you don't know. you cannot know unless your father is a professor. If you don't come from elitist or academic families, you'll never know this. So you need someone that will disclose. You see today many researchers complaining that they finished their PhD 5 years, 4 years, working with someone, and they never knew they needed this until when they asked them and they was like, what is this? They say, you have a PhD and you don't know this? I don't know. What is this? But your professor should have told you. He didn't. So you want to find someone that will be pushing you, but at the same time be patient with you. Understand your needs, your goals for your perspective. And most of the time, people fail in their PhD only because of not a bad relationship with the supervisor. So you want to find the right person. And this is why you reach out. It's not only to get accepted. It's you also to accept them. You reach out to someone, you meet them and you don't feel the vibes or you don't feel the way. Ask them always, what's your mentoring style? How life work balance? There are some professors that want you to work 60 hours per week. This means every day you come at 7 or 8, you leave the lab at 7 or 8 p.m. and you work on the weekends as well. They expect it.
I just want to mention here, because I had an experience. I had my internship in August. For those listeners who are thinking, I will tolerate, I can do this. No, you can't. I tried it. Trust me. Just 8 hours in a day being in the lab, it's exhausting. And just try to imagine that doing for months and months, years by year, and you would become a zombie, but your mind wouldn't be working. It will decrease your thinking, logic thinking abilities, and you don't want to come up. You wouldn't have any idea of what you are doing. So it's very essential that you understand the lab work and working hard. It's not that you can tolerate.
So again, you see, this depends really on the PI. So you may have a PI that don't have personal life. There are some people.
So for listeners, could you elaborate? PI?
PI is the principal investigator. So this is obviously your advisor as a researcher, PhD students or a master student, but this is in the research parts. So most of the time is for PhD. So PI again is the principal investigator, is the advisor. And some people decide.
Is it the same as supervisor?
Yes, is the same.
Okay.
So some people, and you are working, the PI or the supervisor, the advisor, the main one is the one with whom you are working regularly. In their lab, you do your stuff with them and their lab. But the problem, again, as I was saying, is that there are some people that devoted their life to science. They don't have personal life. They are like, I am a scientist, that's all. But is it something you want to do? Maybe you want to have balance, to have family, to have people, to have friends, to have social life. But if you have someone that is only science, it's all right, it's their decision. But if they expect you to be also science and science only, they're not the right person for you. So you may leave them to people also that want to devote their life to science. They will get along very well. But for you, you want someone that understands that unless someone is dying, on the weekend, you're not expected to work. You have to spend time with your friends and family. You have to refresh your mind to come on Monday with fresh attitude, to analyze your samples, to go through your data with a fresh, refreshed mindset. Mm-hmm. But there are some people that don't want this. They don't think that this is the way. They think if you spend so much time and it works for them. So they expect everyone to be like that. So you speak with your PI to discuss projects. Maybe your PI is doing something that is interesting for you, but is not addressing it the way you may like. Maybe he does more field work, but he wants to add some modeling, some global perspective, regional perspective, but he doesn't do this. If you don't discuss with them, once you are in their lab, it's hard to change what they are doing to bring yours. But if you discuss with them, they're like, I don't do this. you know already that you are not the right person for me. By discussing with the PI, you learn more about how your work relationship will evolve. And this is the PI first, because you want to get along of what you are expecting from your boss and how they will help you get this. After this, the big thing is that the PI is like your motivation letter. When you meet the PI, he will tell you everything he wants. It's the same for your motivation letter. When you send a motivation letter, you say everything you want about yourself. But that's why every time they ask you recommendation letters, it's always about, okay, you said you are this, but we want someone that has a certain standing, that is able to acknowledge and accepts to be the person, the reference for you for this. You said you are good at programming. Who can attest this? You said you are a very disciplined person. Who can attest this? And the PI can also tell you everything they want. So the next step is to reach out to their students. Ask students, because they will always tell you the truth. And find a way to chat with them informally, maybe over Zoom. Because if it's email, they may be like, what if you take screen capture and you send them to their boss? But if you meet them or face to face or over Zoom, they may feel very comfortable to tell you the truth. And they'll say, well, I'm here, but if I have to choose again, I wouldn't come here.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. This was part 1 of our first episode, and soon we will release second part of this episode. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.